When you woke up, all you know that the next morning you wasn't in your own bed and you had been dressed in a black t-shirt too big to be your own. On top of that, all of your injuries had been tended to and you had no blood dripping anywhere compared to last night. You look around the room, came to a realization that it had been Jungkook's. Did he change your clothes? Does that mean he... You gasped when the sound of a door opening suddenly reaches your ears. You pull up the covers over you as Jungkook walked into the room, his hands bloody and his hair messy. "You're all bloody," you said, your eyes wide as you watched him look over at you before walking over to the bathroom. "It's not my blood," is all he said before the sink water turns on. His voice sounded emotionless as always. It takes you a couple of seconds to understand, but when you do, you only get more confused. "Wait, you killed Andrew?" you shout while he just shrugged, wiping his blood with a towel. "How did you find him?" you asked in shock. Did he really kill Andrew? You didn't know if it made you are a psychopath, not feeling sad that he died. All you felt was relief. Now Evan was your only problem. It seems like he forgot about the money though, since he hadn't talked to you for a while. Jungkook suddenly threw your phone and your bag of money on the bed. You look down. You look down at the bag in shock, opening it up to see all your money still inside. When did Jungkook even take your phone? You figured he used it to find Andrew. You clear your throat as you stand up, the t-shirt reaching your mid-thighs as you walk over to where he had been standing in the bathroom. You could already feel the nerves rising in your stomach at the way he had looked you up and down. Clearing your throat, you look up at his taller frame. "Thank you for helping me." You barely stumble out. You would have been able to speak normally if he hadn't moved 2 steps closer to you. The distance wasn't exactly helping you out. Your eyes widened when he easily pulled off his dark hoodie with one hand, revealing his pale skin and toned abs and tattooed arm. "What do you think you are doing?" you stuttered, trying to keep your eyes focused on his face and not his perfect built body. "I want to shower," he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes as he looked down at you. "Oh," you said, your back pushed against the counter to keep your distance farther from him. "Are you going to leave or you want to join me, Angel?" he said, deeply trailing his eyes down your body only covered in his t-shirt. You feel your face flush red before quickly shaking your head no. For some reason, you stay in your spot though, nervously swallowing the lump in your throat. As you look up at him, maybe it was the way he was looking down at you or your close proximity with his, but whatever it was caused you to feel like you were on fire. I'm going to go now," you whisper under your breath, your fingers gripping the fabric of the t-shirt on you tightly as you try to calm your racing heart. You shuddered when his thumb moved to graze over the bruise under your eye before he nodded his head. I see you later then," he replied deeply, still not moving from his spot either. Why was he looking at you like that? It takes all the strength in you to walk out of the bathroom and back to your own room. The entire time you had been walking back to your room with your clothes in hand, still wearing his t-shirt. All you could think of is why it had been so tense there, why you felt like you were burning next to him. You didn't understand much of it. You look at the time on your phone, a sigh of relief leaving your mouth when you realize you still had an hour for work. You fall back onto your bed, curling up into a ball as you bring up the collar of Jungkook's shirt to your nose. It smells like his cologne. You took your last hour before work to process what Jungwoo said last night. It all made sense. Their father looked scary enough to be a mafia leader, and the way Jungkook acted made it all make more sense. You figured Jungwoo was mad last night because he hadn't even known about it either. You wondered if that's what made Jungkook act like how he was. No wonder why Jungwoo was normal. He wasn't involved in any of the mafia stuff. Either way, you didn't want to bring it up at all in front of any of them. You didn't want to be involved in any of that illegal business. You look at the bandages on your hands, a smile forming on your face at how badly it would be wrapped. No wonder why he asked you to clean his injuries. You shake your head, feeling weird for thinking about Jungkook of all people. You sigh as you get up and grab your clothes to change into before your shift. Hopefully, the weekend didn't drag on too long, especially since the birthday party was tomorrow. You were assigned to serve food and drinks all night, which you were dreading. You have to see every faces of university that is already hates you enough. On top of that, you had no gift for Jungwoo or Jungkook. Did you feel bad about that? Yes. Did you know what to get them? Not at all. Now that you had your money back, you didn't really have an excuse not to get them something. Plus, Jungkook was the only person who had been nice to you at university. Maybe you were too scared they wouldn't like any gift you gave them. You tightened your ponytail before walking out of your room to start work. The day went by quicker than you thought it would. It was nearly 10 and you were on duty to clean the dishes from dinner. You sigh as you scrub the plate clean, moving your elbow up to push away the piece of hair falling onto your face. The kitchen were silent. All the other maids were finishing up cleaning other rooms while you were on dish duty. You hadn't run into Jungwoo all day. It felt like you hadn't seen him for weeks, even though it really wasn't that long. You would be lying if you said you didn't want to talk to Jungwoo. Somehow you always enjoyed his presence, his smile, his eyes. He made you feel normal. You didn't know how you felt about him though. If it weren't for Jungkook, it confused you. You would have thought you had a crush on Jungwoo. You knew you didn't like Jungkook. You knew he would be the last person you'd ever have a crush on. But he made you feel odd. He brought a weird feeling to your stomach. He made your heart race more than anyone's ever done. He made your head go crazy like you were on some sort of drug. You didn't want any of it. You wanted to get rid of it, but you couldn't control it. It's like your body took complete control of your every time he was around. Why couldn't it just be simple? Why did Jungkook have to come in and make things so complicated? You scream when you suddenly feel a hand tap on your shoulder. Your hand turns to the side, ready to face whatever monster was coming your way, with the pan in your hand. Did I scare you? Jungwoo laughed, looking down at the pan held tightly in your hand. You widened your eyes, feeling your face flush red in embarrassment. You couldn't help but take in his pink hair, pushed back the grey hoodie, and smile that reached his eyes as he laughed. Sorry, I thought you were a monster. You cleared your throat, too embarrassed to look him in the eyes. Jungwoo looks at you with a raised eyebrow before his gaze trailed down under your eye. His eyebrows scrunched together as he straightens up before walking closer to you. The smile was completely off his face now as he took a closer look at the bruise. Your eye, why is it all bruised? Jungwoo asked, moving his gaze back up to yours for an answer. It was a little accident, that's what it was. You breathe out, your hands gripping the pan tighter when you realize how close he would now be to you. Accident? What kind of accident? He frowns. You look up at Jungwoo getting trapped in his brown eyes as you try to figure out an excuse, which seemed impossible for your brain with Jungwoo being so close to you. While I was cleaning, it was stupid, really. You shrugged, taking a step back with whatever space you had between you and the sink. Cleaning, huh? He asked, his voice sounding different this time as he moves his gaze from your bruise to your eyes. Yeah, you replied, watching his eyes flicker down to your lips. You could feel your heart racing in confusion, wondering what was going on. Can I tell you something? He asked, all of a sudden moving closer to you. Sure, you breathed out nervously. How did you end up in the situation with Jungkook and now Jungwoo? This time, oddly, it felt right. It felt real. With Jungkook, it only felt like he was messing with you, like none of it was actually real. You guessed, you were just confused. The sound of glass breaking suddenly stops Jungwoo from moving any closer to you. As you both turn your heads towards the noise, you watch in confusion as Jungkook stands there with a shattered plate scattered around his shoes. Jungkook's eyes were dark as he looked between you both, his jaw are clenched. Clean it up. Jungkook breathes out, moving his eyes towards you. You swallow the lump in your throat nervously before starting to walk towards the mess. The look in his eyes made you are too afraid to say no, so the only other option was to listen. You don't make it any further when Jungwoo's hand suddenly grabs your arm, stopping you from moving any closer. She is not your slave, do it by yourself. Jungwoo said, his voice was calm. Jungkook's jaw tics as he looks down at Jungwoo's hand still on your arm. The tension in the room only grows as you stand there in between them. You just wanted to walk away and stay out of whatever was going on between them. You drop your head down as you look at your shoes, feeling uncomfortable. I need to get back to work. You mumble under your breath, gently pulling your hand out of Jungwoo's hold. You walk as quickly as you can away from them, not even caring about the couple of dishes left in the sink to clean. I'll do them after they leave, you thought. For a moment, it seems like Jungwoo had been jealous, but you had no hope he was even capable of having that much feeling. You let out a breath of relief when you feel like you are far enough. We didn't want to be put in a situation between both of them ever again. Every time you see Jungkook and Jungwoo in a room together, it feels as if a fight is going to break out any second. They needed to be forced to like each other for at least a day. They needed to at least talk to each other and not with threatening words. It seems impossible though. You wonder how stressed it all made Mrs. John, especially with one of her sons barely ever talking to her. It made you wonder why Jungkook talked to you so much. You never saw him talk much to anyone else. No one in university even had the guts to try to be friends with Jungkook, and even if they tried, he would probably publicly embarrass them. But Jungkook talks to you out of everyone. Well, maybe not in the nicest way, but it was still something. Did that mean you both were friends? You laughed as you swept the floor. Feels insane. The word Jungkook and friends didn't mix too well. He looked like he hates everyone, and you don't think friends kissed. The way he looked at you didn't seem like a friend look either, or the tension every time you both are near each other. Maybe you were just being delusional. There wasn't a single moment you hadn't been doing something. Everyone was preparing for the party tonight. It all had to be perfect. It seemed like you were preparing for the royal family to arrive. You wasn't shocked at how extravagant they were making the party considering they were billionaires. You hadn't seen Jungkook all day after what happened last night. He was about to kiss you and you were about to let it happen. Did you know why? No. Wyan, Mrs. Carmen yells your name and you pop your head out from behind the flowers you had been preparing to put in vases for the tables. Mrs. Carmen had been walking around like a mad lady the entire day making sure nothing would get messed up. You were scared. You did something wrong. You had already seen three other maids getting scolded today by her. Yes, you replied cautiously, wiping your hands on your apron before standing up and rushing up to her. There were maids moving in every direction around you as she stood with her clipboard. I need to pick up some stuff from the store for tonight. You are coming with me to help carry bags, she said before writing something down. Really, I can come with you? You smile as you start walking behind her. Can you manage holding bags? She questioned, and you quickly nod your head, moving to walk beside her. Great then, we better hurry. Mrs. Carmen had stopped at three stores that already had the stuff prepared for her to pick up. You sigh as you sit at a table with Mrs. Carmen and all of the stuff placed beside you. She had to take an important phone call, so she took a break before heading out. You let your eyes wander around the mall from your seat, watching as the obviously rich families walked with bags of designer in their hands. You stop your eyes at a mall gift shop before biting your lip in contemplation. You look over at Mrs. Carmen, who was still busy on the phone before getting up and walking towards the store. You open the door to see only a couple of customers inside looking over all the neatly placed items. Your hands brush over a snow globe with a tiny football player throwing a ball standing inside. A small smile covers your face as you shake the globe, watching as the fake snow fills the glass. You sigh, knowing some snow globe wasn't a good present to give a billionaire. You hold in your hand something in you, telling you to just get it for him. You're about to walk up to the cashier until you freeze at something sitting in a glass case that catches your eyes. You tilt your head to the side as you look at it carefully. Pursing your lips together, you let out a breath before walking up to the cashier. Are you ready to go? Mrs. Carmen asked you as she pushes her phone into her purse. Her eyes glances down at the bag in your hand in confusion. Yes, sorry Mrs. Carmen, I just needed to make a quick stop. You uttered, grabbing the rest of the bags. Hopefully they like the gifts. The gold decorated room was packed with people dressed top to bottom in expensive clothing. There was a live orchestra in the corner playing beautiful music. It all felt like the some movie and you got it to see it all. You had no idea who most of the guests were. The only ones you would recognize were the faces from university, which you had tried your best to avoid, especially Leah. You felt pathetic around everyone. Your eyes dropped down when a group of gorgeous women walked by in fancy dresses. You feel your gaze followed them as you look at their perfectly done hair, their shiny nails and perfect figures. You bite your lip as you look down at yourself, your dirty maid uniform, your messy tied black hair and plain nails. You wondered what it was to feel like them. It feels so beautiful. Hey, can you hear me? I ask for another drink. An older man spits at you. You stumble in your spot before quickly grabbing a drink and handing it to the man who was giving you a dirty look. I'm sorry, sir. You mumble, bowing your head down, but he just curses under his breath before walking away. You sigh as you adjust the cup on your tray before walking to another spot to hand out drinks. How can he be so handsome? A girl sigh out before everyone's eyes are turned towards the same direction. You scrunch your eyebrows together before turning to see none other than Jungwoo walking in dressed in a black suit with a white undershirt. He had his pink hair rushed back and a smile on his face as he walked into the house with his friends. Where's the other one? Another girl whispers. You couldn't help but listen to the conversation. You had nothing else to do anyways. All you had to do tonight was stand around and give out drinks. It got quite boring after a bit. You mean Jungkook? Who knows if he will even come? The girl says as she gawks at Jungwoo, who was still walking through the crowd. His eyes suddenly find your own, and as soon as he spots you, a smile reaches his face. You only watch him as he walks away from his friends, going straight towards you. Oh my gosh, Becky, he's coming this way. The girl screeches and you look over at them. Oh great. The smiles on the girls' faces are quickly wiped away when Jungwoo walks by them and stands in front of you. You look at the girls who had been glaring at you before turning towards Jungwoo. Do you want a drink? You ask nervously, holding up a glass towards Jungwoo. Hopefully he just takes the drink and leaves before these girls try executing you. No happy birthday wishes to your favorite person? Jungwoo chuckled, taking the drink from your hand. You look up at him, your eyes caught in his own. Who cares about what those girls think? There was nothing wrong with Jungwoo and you talking. Well, you haven't gotten your favorite person title yet, but I guess I'll say happy birthday. You smile, looking down at your pocket, holding his wrapped gift. Should you give it to him now? Yet, is there something specific I have to do to get that title? He asked, looking down at you with the same look he always gave you. It was a mix of happiness and something else you couldn't really understand. Your eyes shift when you suddenly see Jungkook walking into the house with his hands in his pants pockets, a stone cold look on his face, and surprisingly with his black hairs. Did he color his hairs? It felt like the tension in the room only grew bigger by his presence. He wore a completely black suit, the black undershirt slightly unbuttoned, his black hairs messy, and a new silver piercing on his right ear you would never seen before. It was the first time you would seen him look so cleaned up, other than the whole healing cuts on his face. You couldn't deny how handsome he looked in the suit and in his newly colored black hairs. His icy eyes trail over to yours as he walks in with no care in the world. There were multiple people coming up to talk to him, every single one of them get ignored. You clear your throat quickly, moving your focus back towards Jungwoo. Well, first, you have to take your birthday present. You smile, holding out the gift wrapped in light blue wrapping paper towards him. You got me a present? He laughed, taking the gift in his hand as he looked over at you. You nod your head, trying to ignore the feeling of a pair of cold eyes burning through the side of your head. Maybe you should just open it later, though. You blurt out before he can open the gift. You was scared of seeing his disappointed look when seeing your pathetic choice of a gift. Jungwoo, come on, we're all hanging out over there. Jungwoo's friends say as a group of them comes up to you both and look down at you weirdly. Hey, I'll talk to you later, okay? Jungwoo said as he gets dragged away by his friends and you nod your head, going back to serving drinks. You couldn't help as your eyes trailed back over to Jungkook. Your eyes froze and at the scene in front of you. You feel a sting of jealousy spike in you as you watch a group of girls of your age who who look more like models than anything, smiling up at Jungkook as they talk about something. Jungkook just stands there not paying any attention to the girls as he downs some alcoholic drink that was only meant to be served to the adults over 25. How did he manage to get that? Your eyes widen when Jungkook spots you looking at him. He still had that angry look on his face as he looked back at you, the same one from yesterday when he would interrupted Jungkook, Jungwoo and you. You quickly turn your head away, your hands gripping the tray of drinks tighter as you walk towards the bathroom for a quick break. You sigh as you put the tray down before walking towards the women's restroom. Before you can make it to the door, your arms is grabbed from behind. You screech when you are suddenly dragged back and pulled into a hard chest. Let go of me. You squall, trying to pull out of Jungkook's tight grip. He pulled you so close that you could smell his expensive cologne. What the fuck were you doing last night? He scolds. That's not your problem. Why would you care anyways? You mumble, avoiding his eyes as you turn your face to the side. That doesn't work when Jungkook moves his head down to your height so that you're forced to make eye contact. What makes you think I don't care? He said deeply by watching you carefully. You watched him confused as you feel your heart start racing like it always did around him. Well, you just wouldn't care about that stuff. You replied, not sure if what you said even made any sense. Do you like him? Jungkook suddenly asked, his jaw clenched. What does that have to do with you? I answered the fucking question, Ryan. He scrolled his eyes darker now. You were confused with your how were you supposed to answer the question? Why was he so mad about it anyways? Your lips are parted when you're about to say something until you decide on just keeping your mouth closed. Jungkook searched your face, something flashing in his eyes before he let go of your arm and pushes past you. You stand there frozen, not knowing why you felt so weird, like you had just cheated on an exam and got caught. You move your hand to where your heart is, listening to how fast your heart is beating, all because of him. Your eyes move down to the gift you had bought him earlier. You hold it in your hand, a sigh leaving your mouth. You were too scared to give it to him and kept making excuses. After using the restroom, you walked back towards the party, grabbing your tray of drinks. You drown out all of the conversation around you as you focus on listening to the orchestra. Your gaze around the party before they stop on Jungwoo, who was standing with his parents and other family speaking to them. Whatever they were talking about, it seemed important. You noticed Jungwoo's eyes light up when he suddenly saw you. He mouthed the word help sarcastically and you laughed, shrugging your shoulders. The sound of a woman screaming suddenly heard and everyone goes silent. Your eyes frantically search around the place trying to find where the screaming came from. You pause at the side in front of you, feeling your heart sink as you watch Jungkook grabbing a woman in her late 30s with her hair. There were gasps from every direction when he suddenly punched her directly on her face multiple times. Jungwoo and Mr. Jung grabs Jungkook, pulling him away from her before he went any further. It took both of them to get him off of her. What the fuck were you thinking? Why are you hitting a woman? Jungwoo yelled on Jungkook's face as he pushed him back. You watched the scene in horror until you caught sight of Jungkook's face. He held a familiar look in his eyes, a familiar look of fear, anger, and pain. The same one you had when Ivan touched you, the same one you had when no one helped you but only watched. His eyes completely ignored Jungwoo while he watched in confusion as the woman gets helped by everyone around her. He looked absolutely shattered. A large crowd was A large crowd was now formed around them, people holding their hands to their mouth in shock at the now bloody face of the woman. Jungkook's jaw clenched as he completely ignored his parents, who were trying to calm him down. You watched as he pushed past by Jungwoo, walking through the crowd that moved aside as soon as he stepped by. You furrow your eyebrows together before throwing your tray onto a random table and pushing past everyone to get to the front door Jungkook had just barged through.